Good evening, everyone. It said on the card, researcher and educator. All right, and a little bit of disclaimer here. I'm not a great researcher and I'm not a great educator. I'm a recent introduction to both. But I'll be sharing my story, and you can make a judgment at the end. Until recently, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I finished, while I was an undergrad at USP, I thought getting my degree is the end game. It would be my golden ticket to the chocolate factory. And when I got my degree, I was introduced to a term called academic inflation. And I was like, what? And then, once that happened, I applied for jobs, I applied for scholarships, and my GPA wasn't high enough. I wasn't accepted to any scholarships. And I applied for jobs, and yeah, it didn't really work for me. So I was kind of bumming around for a bit. And then someone told me about work and travel visas overseas. So I applied for that, and I got it. I was accepted to something. The first thing I was accepted to, so I went. And I spent 2 years in Australia, working and traveling. Had some great experiences there. As part of the conditions for my visa, I wasn't allowed to work in any urban areas. It was all rural. But it was fine for me. Rural Australia is urban Fiji, which is great. And it suited me. So I had some great experiences there. I worked all over the place, on farms, in small cities, in doing all sorts of jobs. And I think, in retrospect, it was good for me because it allowed me to take a step back from what I was used to and sort of have an outside perspective of what I wanted to do and what Fiji was like. In my heart, I always wanted to stay in Fiji and work here. So what I always likened it to any electronics that isn't really working, especially a laptop. Once it starts playing up, all you do is just turn it off and then turn it on again, which is what I kind of did with my career path. And I'll share some of those experiences with you down the line. And when I came back to Fiji, I kind of had some idea what I wanted to do. So my visa was up. I didn't want to stay in Australia. It's a great place. It just sucks that it's full of Australians. So I came back, and one of the jobs that I applied for, I got. And that was with the Nandraki Weather Company. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that. It's a private weather company that's based in Suva, and basically my role there was taking all this esoteric weather and climate information and try to make it more digestible for your average person, which is what, in my perspective, was kind of missing in Fiji. A lot of people, when you start talking about low pressures and tropical depressions and stuff like that, people just kind of zone out. And they want to know, is it sunny or not? Come on. That's all we want to know, which kind of never happens in Suva. I really enjoyed my time there. I think that was quite recently. That was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And it was at a time when the whole climate change buzz was happening. And I was very fortunate to be at that space and time when I was there. Especially at a time when, with all this climate change, extremes are the new norms, right? And anyone that's been in Fiji, or anywhere really, knows that weather and climate can be a very big part of people's lives, especially during cyclone season. So that was great. I was in charge of handling social media, which was good, and our team, well, there was three of us in the company at the time, me and my colleague, we decided that we should really focus a bit more on social media, including Facebook and Twitter, which didn't really settle in well with the boss, because the question he asked was, how are we going to make money doing that? We're a private weather company. We kind of have to make a profit to survive. There's no outside funding. It's all sort of private clientele. But we said, at the end of the day, it's not about how much money you make. It's about trying to fill that void between what weather information people get, what weather data is available and how that information is broadcasted. So we worked hard with that, and it kind of caught on. Our followers, and until recently we had, especially during Tropical Cyclone Winston, we had almost 1 million plus people that our posts reach, which was great. And there was a lot of messages of people telling us that, without you guys, we would have lost everything, which was great. And, very fulfilling, which something that kind of resonates with me. Even though our bottom line for the company wasn't that great, it felt good to actually make a positive impact on people's lives. Then, of course, we had the occasional Facebook warrior. You guys suck. You said it's gonna rain, it's sunny, we stayed home. Yeah, you know how it goes in Fiji. But I kind of never thought that weather and climate was for me. I mean, it was fun, especially, during times when weather was really kind of bipolar and playing up. When it's sunny outside, no one checks the weather. All right, as soon as there's a little bit of rain, or it's kind of hot, or during cyclone season, boom, there's like a whole bunch of people that all of a sudden care about what the weather's doing. So yeah, it really felt good, and it was personally very satisfying to me. A lot of stories, and I met a lot of people who said that, without Nandraki, in collaboration with all the other weather information that you get, Nandraki really touched our lives, which is great. And I'm still with Nandraki, albeit in like a kind of more of a social media consultant kind of role, even if that's even possible. But that was not where I wanted my life to go. And I did the next logical step for me was to maybe go back to school, try to beat this academic inflation thing, try and better myself, try and what opportunities postgraduate qualifications would take me. And so I went back to school, and I was there, and I got to talking with different people, and I kind of immersed myself in academia. And during the course of my postgraduate studies, I was offered a role of being a tutor to undergraduates. So I started tutoring. I did not hesitate to take the role. I mean, the first thing I asked was, what's the pay like? And they said, oh, it's decent. I was like, done, I'm there. So I signed up for that, and in hindsight, that was probably one of the best career decisions that I made. Also very fulfilling, teaching some of these young undergraduates, a lot of island students. And I started with the School of Biology, and I went to Geography, and I finished off with the School of Marine. And I was always one of those rebels in class. I wasn't a big fan of the real passive sort of learning. Students would just sit back and just take notes all the time. I wanted that two-way interaction. And I wanted the students to sort of open up and break the norms of how things were in secondary school, where you just kind of sit back and you just take everything in. I wanted them to, open up. So that was a real learning curve for me, but also very satisfying. And unlike Melly, when the students were daydreaming, I'd throw the dust at them. No, I really didn't do that. And it was quite easy teaching these students, because a lot of regional students who have a very intrinsic relationship with the environment, and you're teaching them the environmental sciences, which was great. So I also learned a lot from them. Fast forward a bit down the line, I applied for a research assistant position. Somehow I managed to get that. My GPA was rock bottom, but I don't know, I made an impression on someone, and some of my superiors really took a blind leap of faith in hiring me. So thus the researcher in my title. Research work really opened my eyes. You know that in Fiji and in the Pacific in general, in the broad scheme of things, there's a lot that we still don't know about environment. And so it was great to kind of fill in those blanks. And the project that I'm working on right now has just got to do with trying to establish shark nurseries in Fiji. Okay, I wonder if you've recently, USP has completed a project in the Rewa River, and they've found that there's more juveniles of hammerhead sharks here than there is anywhere else in the world, which was sort of some great results there. And any fisherman in Fiji, especially those along the big riverine systems, that includes Rewa River, Singatoka, Ba, anyone who's dropped the line in the water knows that more often than not, you'd pull in a juvenile shark. And there's a whole bunch of different species. So I was posted up in Ba, the Ba River, and sort of packed my bags, and they sent me away as far away from USP as possible, I don't know why, to the banks of the Ba River. And I'm currently there. A great place, very hot, very dusty, but a lot of good vibes, staying in the village, and a lot of Yangona. And so it's very fulfilling to kind of contribute to the bigger picture. And Fiji is, it's being known that, and the more we study it, the more it kind of makes, the more we realize that Fiji is an important area for juvenile sharks. Okay, just to sum it all up, some of us, a lot of the younger people, don't really know which career path they want to take. And a lot of times, people's successes are judged by, how much money they make, what sort of cars they drive, how many jugs you can buy in the clubs. But to me, personally, and I want to share this with everyone else, just being able to give back. One of my favorite artists, Lucky Dube, said, "Blessed is the hand that giveth, the one that taketh." So I encourage everyone out there to follow their dreams, not really think about the profit motive, and to try to give back. Viti Levu.